Hey everyone, how's it going? Heard from so many of you after last week's appearance on Sesh talking about Vanderpump Rules, and love hearing your insights and your takeaways. Got a lot of questions about some of the stuff that I said, so I just wanted to throw together a quick little follow-up video where I'm going to address some of the more consistent themes I was hearing about. And we're going to kind of have a broader topic here. There's going to be a thread of relationship through this video. So we're going to use the cast of Vanderpump Rules to get into some relationship issues and see what we can uncover and learn together as a group. So first things first, Katie. A lot of you expressed concern and sadness for Katie. A lot of you really resonated with my personal take on Schwartz, which is that he disowns his anger and he passive-aggressively gaslights Katie and then kind of points an accusing finger at her and says, "Oh, you're fucked up and this isn't okay." I want to kind of give you guys some relief. Don't feel too bad for Katie. Katie has her own investment in this relationship. We all have our own investments in our relationships. The idea is that we are constantly in co-creation with the universe. We are constantly creating our own realities. And this is how you shift out of victimhood into a place of deeper empowerment. Your unconscious is always bringing in the exact right people, places, and things to help facilitate your greatest healing, your greatest transformation, your greatest growth, should you choose to accept the challenge. So for Katie, there is something in Katie that has brought Tom in. There is a payoff she gets from being with a guy like Tom. Now, what might that payoff be? Good question. For me, the hit that I get off Katie is that underneath sort of all her bluster and her sort of quick temper is actually a very frightened little girl. That's really what I get off of her, and I feel like she is a woman who is actually very, very afraid to surrender to a man. And when I say surrender, please understand, I'm not talking about like a Stepford wife kind of way. You can be an independent, strong woman and still surrender to masculine energy if that's what your spirit wants. If you are someone who has feminine energy and you want to surrender to masculine energy emotionally, energetically, sexually, that can still happen. And I feel in Katie, she's someone who's very scared to do that. And I think the reason why she's scared to do that is because she is scared of being in her own feminine energy. She's scared of being in her own womanly energy. She's scared of being in her own feminine essence. And I think that's why we see time and time again, she tends to have issues with other women. So if you remember, she really, took issue with Lala and slut-shamed Lala a lot. And so for me, my feeling on that is Lala was really embodying kind of a very unapologetic female sexuality, female sensuality, was going topless, really just owning her feminine energy and gifts. And I think that really triggered Katie because it's something that she won't allow for herself. Because she won't allow that for herself, it's perfect for her to bring in a man who won't be in his true manhood and is instead playing this part of this scared little boy. It makes it so she never has to surrender to her own feminine energy. And not only that, because he's poking her, it gives her a great excuse to constantly be on the defense, to constantly be blowing up left and right, to be in her anger, to have all those defenses up. Tom is the perfect guy for her in that regard. She never has to go in and surrender. So this is how these two use each other. Tom gets to stay small. He gets to tell a story that he's afraid of Katie's anger. He's not allowed to be in his true feelings. The truth is, Tom doesn't really want to be in his true feelings. He's scared to be in his true feelings. How perfect for him that he's drawn in Katie. Katie gets to be pissed at Tom for being this passive-aggressive man-child who won't grow up. But how perfect for her, because then she never has to surrender to a masculine energy and she never has to be in her feminine essence. So again, in the words of Judge Judy, Katie picked Tom. Tom picked Katie. They are both manifesting their own unconscious needs and desires right now. You might be wondering, well, Jamie, this doesn't sound very healthy. Like you said, we bring in what we need for our greatest healing and transformation. How does that happen? If Tom and Katie are just kind of living in this bad relationship, how are they actually going to use each other for their greatest healing and their greatest growth and their greatest transformation? And that is a great question. So first of all, we always have choice. So just because we're bringing in the raw materials to facilitate our greatest change and greatest transformation, it doesn't mean, like Ethan Hunt, we are going to choose to accept the mission. We have to make the choice to accept the mission. We have to make the choice to use these things around us as the vehicle for our own inner work and our own expanding consciousness. So here's how it could look, and I'm going to use Tom Sandoval and Ariana as a perfect example. These two are made to heal each other. I want you to hear this out. In Tom Sandoval, I got into this a little bit on the podcast, but I'm gonna go a little bit deeper with it right now. I feel deep down Tom Sandoval is actually a sexual healer. That's really what I feel. I feel like he's got a robust, healthy sexuality. I think he cares about the women, them having sort of a deep sexual experience. And if you remember, even his song that he wrote, Touch in Public, the whole video was about opening up people's libidos. I think this is who this guy is. He wants to open women up, perhaps even men in some way. I think he's got a sexual healer in him. That said, as discussed on the podcast, I also think Tom Sandoval has a huge fuck you in him, where he hoards his gifts to himself. He keeps his gifts to himself, and he's not letting anyone have them. Meanwhile, Ariana, obviously, is someone who's been very sexually shut down. So, this is perfect, because their mission, should they choose to accept it, is to help each other heal. You've got the guarded sexual healer with the sexually shut down woman. This is an opportunity for Tom Sandoval to finally put aside his hiding, to put aside his fuck you to the world, and actually bring his gifts of potential sexual healing to the woman he loves. This is a prime opportunity for Ariana to put aside the place of her that just wants to sexually shut things down and actually receive the healing she could receive from Tom. They could help heal each other if they're willing to do the work to surrender to what their higher selves actually want. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. There is a reason why Tom Sandoval is hiding his gifts. There is a reason why. He learned early on that that was the only source of his power. He learned early on that for whatever reason he couldn't bring his gifts fully. There was going to be some sort of bad outcome. Ariana learned early on that it's not safe to be in her sexual energy. There's feelings she doesn't want to open up to. There's boundaries that were crossed. So, they are going to have to engage in this process of starting to open up to their core essence and their core energy and the way it wants to express itself, and also be willing to be in the feelings that it brings up, to be on the difficult journey of excavating whatever needs to be excavated. But the great news is that they love each other, so that they can be there for each other, and they can hold space for each other. They can help each other along on their journeys. Tom can open up to the sexual healer inside of him. Ariana can open up to the sexual woman inside of her, and in bringing to each other their true selves, they help each other open up. That's one way it can go. Now, the other way it can go is if they don't choose to accept the mission impossible, and instead, Tom Sandoval, remains holding his secretive gifts, and then, it's very easy to blame Ariana. Oh, she won't kiss me, she won't do that with me, she's a ball-breaking bitch, and it's her fault we're breaking up now. Ariana can look at Tom and be like, he wasn't patient enough with me, he put demands on me. Whatever the story is, they can blame the other person, but the fact is they picked each other. And they picked each other for a reason. And they have a choice whether to accept Mission Impossible and help each other heal, or to stay invested in their unconscious choices that keep them stuck. Now, having said that, that leads me to my last couple I want to touch on, which is Stassi and Beau. I got a very psychic feeling about Stassi and Beau. I think it was the morning after I was on the podcast. This is what I feel about Stassi and Beau. As I mentioned on the podcast, I'm not someone who loves Beau. I know a lot of people love Beau. I don't love Beau. I don't hate Beau either. I just, he seems like a normal dude with, whatever issues he has. But this is sort of the feeling that came to me about Stassi and Beau. I think this is the first time that Stassi has found someone who potentially is willing to be in that work with her. And we're already seeing this play out. Like, we've already seen this play out in the past few weeks. Stassi had that deep reaction when Beau didn't come downstairs at her birthday party. It brought up all of her abandonment issues, and we actually saw her the morning after go inward and start to understand there's something in me that acts up and I don't know what it is, but I'm willing to work on this because I want to be a better person because you are worth it to me. And then we saw Beau basically say, I'm here with you as long as you're willing to work this out. And it's funny that this episode aired this week because the feeling that I got last week after I appeared on the podcast was specifically that Stassi has finally found a man who, if they choose to accept Mission Impossible, this is a guy who will hang out with her in this process. And she will hang out with him in his process. And that this is a couple that I think could do this work of self-actualization and helping to each other heal in a deep way. And I think this is an important distinction to make because I don't think Stassi's had that before. I think Stassi before was so committed to her abandonment issues and whatever was going on with her on an unconscious level that she was drawing in guys like Jax, Patrick, Frank, who were so far gone that it didn't matter if Stassi were willing to do her own work. It wouldn't matter if Stassi were willing to hold space for their healing journeys. These were guys who were never going to meet her halfway. They were never going to hold space for her, and they were never going to do their own work. And so in a way, with those were dead-end relationships. And the only way those relationships were going to go would be for Stassi to eventually leave them. Like, there was no salvaging those relationships because the guys just felt too far gone. I feel like with Beau, though he's not some perfect person, and really who is, she has found a man finally who will be in that work with her. And I think she will be in the work with him. I actually get a really good feeling for them in that regard. And I think that has a lot to do with why we're seeing Stassi's mother freak out now, but I'm going to save that for another video because this is, I feel like we've already gotten into a lot of deep information here. Yeah, I'm just checking in for any last residual bits. That's it, guys. That's it. That's my follow-up to Bit Sesh. I hope that this was informative and illuminating for you. Let me know if you have any questions. And, if you need help navigating your own relationships, finding out what your mission impossible is, understanding why you've drawn in certain people into your lives, feel free to hit me up. Feel free to set up a reading, hollywoodreadings.com. I love hearing from you, and see you guys soon.